Gabby, did you hear the news? You got caught.
No, I got caught.
Caught,
Doing
bud.
what?
You got caught. This weekend, you got caught. We'll read the headline to you. Chris Pronger, head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, reached 100 career wins in 164 games, tying Andrew Brunette, now coaching the Nashville Predators, and Bruce Boudreau for eighth fewest games needed to reach the century mark. Now, I'm going to read the names. Okay, so you're 164, tied with the Oilers coach and the Nashville Predators coach. 163, we have a tie, Dan Bylsma and Sheldon Keefe. At 159, we have Dean Evison, now coaching the Columbus Blue Jackets. At 158, we have one of my favorites, Terry Crisp. We have Todd McClellan, also at 158, now coaching the Red Wings. Mike Keenan at 152. And at 138 games, legendary Montreal Canadian, Boston Bruin, Tom Johnson, who coached that, Hall of Fame team in the early 70s. Do you have a thought on any of this? Because you reached your 100 win mark at a Washington game against the New York Rangers at MSG. I'm not even sure if you remember it, but do you have a thought on being caught by the Oilers coach?
Well, you know what? When you're reading those things, I will tell you this, okay? And I don't want to sound bragging, but both Chris Knobloch and I are the only two that took over last place teams at the time. And like the other guys inherited some pretty good teams when they were doing their winning. And like I know I was in dead last, and I'm pretty sure Knobloch was in dead last when he took over the team. So it's pretty cool. And you're right, I didn't remember any of it. I remembered where I was when won number 300, 400, 500, and 600, but not number 100.
Hang on. How do you remember those other ones, but not number 100?
Because 100 just seemed like your start of your career. I didn't know if I'd ever get to 300. Oh, wow. And then you get there, and 400, they start making then these statistics would have come out, and 500, the statistics would have come out. And when you won, like, I didn't ever think I was going to win 600, and I never did, and almost didn't do it. Like, do you know, like, that last year in Vancouver, when I got my 600, we went the first 6 games without a win, and I thought, for sure I'm getting fired before this 600th win. And I mean, because we ended the previous season with 599, and I'm going, okay, I mean, I just got the 1,000th game in a few weeks before, and you get to 599. And then you go 6 games without a win. And then the 7th game was in Seattle. And I'm going, oh, my God, this is the year they made the playoffs. And I'm going, they just beat us twice in preseason, and they killed us. And there's no chance. And we ended up squeaking out a 5-4 win in Seattle that night. And I was pleased as punch. But, I mean, and then the next night we had to play Pittsburgh, but once we won that first game, we beat Pittsburgh 5-1. We were on a little bit of a roll, but those games I remember. The 100, you know what game I remember playing in New York for lots of reasons, but never my 100th game.
But when you look at these names, Keenan, Crisp, Keith, Evison, McCullen, one I want to focus on quickly here as we open up the show is Dan Bylsma, because correct me if I'm wrong here, but you coached Dan Bylsma.
Yeah, I did. I coached him in, I don't even know where the hell I was. I was in Manchester, and he was an LA property guy, and he had gotten injured. So he came down for 2 weeks for rehab. And the one thing I noticed about Dan, and I really loved it, like, I know he's only down there for 2 weeks, and he's out there blocking shots, leading with his head and everything. And that's where I really grew to appreciate the effort that a guy like Dan Bylsma would put in. And that's why he made the NHL and stayed there for a while, because listen, he wasn't a great goal scorer, to the point where when I first started coaching in Muskegon, I was phoning him up almost on a daily basis, hoping to sign him in Muskegon in the Colonial Hockey League, because he's from Muskegon. And I thought, okay, what a great match. We'd get a local kid in here. And but no, he had a lot more fish to fry than, like, he must have looked at me on the phone and going, who the F is that guy? Like, I mean, why is he even trying to phone me at this point? Like, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I just remember him and Ian LePerrier are just outstanding penalty killers for the Los Angeles Kings. All right, a couple of stories already in the books here. Welcome once again to The Hockey Lifers, your weekly tour through the NHL and the world of hockey. Okay, Gabby, here we go again. Welcome once again to the Hockey Lifers. Glad to have you aboard. Jeff Marek alongside Bruce Boudreau. And Gabby, it'll be a newsy show, a show that's filled with stories as always. Here we are in November, going to get your thoughts of what we've seen so far over the month, both by way of player performance and team performance as well. And we're also going to talk in a couple of moments here to someone who rightfully has his place in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's one of the most decorated players the game has ever seen, one of the best defensemen the game has ever seen. He's a Stanley Cup champion. He's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. He's won the World Championships, the World Juniors. He's won the Norris. He's won the Hart Trophy. As a matter of fact, he was the last defenseman to win the Hart Trophy. He is Chris Pronger, who comes from that era where, as much as we talk about the era being a golden age of netminders with Dominik Hasek and Martin Brodeur, and Patrick Roy, I kind of look at it also as a golden age of defensemen with Chris Pronger, who we're going to hear from in a second, Nick Lidstrom, and Scott Niedermayer. When I say the name Chris Pronger, what comes to your mind right away?
One mean SOB is what comes to my mind. Like, I mean, you know, for all the greatness of Chris Pronger, he was also like just a mean, tough, physical player. And he took no prisoners. And boy, like when he was in Philadelphia is when I was coaching against him. And like this guy was a tower. Like, I mean, I don't know if people realize how big he was. He's 6'6" without skates on. So probably 6'9" with the skates on. And like, I mean, he wasn't like Chara where he was the gentle giant. He was one mean guy. And if you crossed him, you were getting it. And he didn't care if you were 5'6" or 6'6". You were getting it from him. Just an imposing figure to play against.
Gabby, quickly before we get to the interview here with Chris, I've always felt that one of, and maybe the best compliment you can pay a hockey player is saying this: in any era of hockey, Chris Pronger could have played in a high-flying era, an era where half the league should have been incarcerated. He could have played in any era. Would you agree with that about Chris Pronger?
Almost 100%, because I think in the 40s he would have been so big he would have killed people. But at that, but seriously, he was an offensive defenseman for being his size, and the reason he's got all these accolades and awards is because he could do everything. Like, I mean, and you're right, he could play in the 60s and the 70s. Oh, he would have enjoyed playing in the 70s and 80s. I mean, he would have, because it was kill or be killed. I mean, your stick was a perfect weapon, and he knew how to use that. Like, I know he was a great player, and he could also score and create plays, and he played the point in the power play, and he had a great shot. All of these things. So there's no doubt in my mind he could have played at any point in time that he wanted to, and been great at it.
Okay, let's get right to our guest then. Please enjoy this conversation with Chris Pronger. First of all, Chris, would you like me to read the list of accomplishments? Because it might take half of the interview between Stanley Cup and Olympics and Hart Trophy and World Juniors and World Championship and Hall of Fame and the class that you went in with, one of the best classes we've ever seen. Or do we just get right into the heart of the discussion here? Because the resume is impressive. And
let's just do the Olympics. It is an Olympic year.
Okay, so two-time. Okay, so here's one of the things that I wonder about. I'm just gonna get like way ahead of myself, but you were there to see it, and experience it. I wonder about Matthew Schaefer, because it wasn't that long ago, 2010. We saw a 20-year-old Drew Doughty join the Canadian Olympic team, and okay, he's a spare along for the ride, and then was one of the players that distinguished themselves. Am I way out of line by even just suggesting or thinking that maybe there's a chance that Matthew Schaefer makes the Olympic team, or am I just eating space cake here?
Well, I guess you could look at it a couple ways. Would you rather have him or Evan Bouchard?
Right now, I'll
That's a
take
good
Matthew
point,
Schaefer.
because I know as a coach who I want.
Exactly. And I think I remember in '06 there was a lot of commentary around why aren't they taking Sidney Crosby?
Yep.
If you're looking at this, how many spots are they allowed to take? 23, 24? How many
25.
do they? 25. So if you have an 8th defenseman, and what you have 5 lines, 8D, 3 goalies, whatever that math's
Yeah,
up to.
it might be 26, but I agree with you. I think it's 8, 15, or 8 5 lines and 3 goalies.
Yeah, to go all the way over there, number one, if you do take them, you might have to use them. So you better be taking players that you are going to play. We saw in Four Nations the pace of play and the physical nature of the game, and players are going to get hurt. So from that perspective, I'm not worried based on what we've seen to date. I guess my biggest concern is he going to hit a wall? And it's going to be, if he does, right around that point in the schedule where he's shot out of a cannon right now. He is playing incredible hockey. He's up and down the ice. And maybe that's just the way this kid plays, and it's fun to watch. And, that's another added element that Canada can add to the arsenal is the way that he does play offensively. And from a defensive standpoint, he's no slouch. Like, he competes. He's still a little slight in that regard against some of the bigger players in the league, but he uses leverage well. He uses angles well. He's got a great stick. Obviously mobility and his skating is second to none. So from that perspective, if you're looking at bringing an 8th defenseman and having an added element to insert into the lineup on occasion or all the time, or B, wanting to see somebody over the neck, give them this experience, then you've got Four Nations in a couple of years, then you've got the Olympics, then you've got all these other events in the future. It might be a great opportunity to give him some experience and get a sense and feel for the room, and add to his arsenal and the way that he plays the game, and learn from some of the greats of this era.
Hey, Chris, when you were young, how excited were you to go over for any international event, whether it's World Championships or Olympics? Did you think about it a lot before you actually went over there, or did you play the season and go, okay, now it's time to go to the Olympics? How exciting was that for you?
Yeah, going in '98, the first year that NHL players were allowed to go was really cool. Obviously, Gretzky was there. We had a long list of Hall of Fame players on that roster, and just to be a part of it, soak it all in. I was a young 23-year-old just finding my way in the NHL, unlike Matthew Schaefer at 18 years old. So that's what's even more impressive, is that I was kind of coming into my own at 23 and, just nominated for a Norris Trophy that year, and on and on and on. And seeing what he's able to do here at 18 years old is pretty impressive. He's got that team on his back. They've all kind of really galvanized around this kid, and the energy that he provides and the way that he plays the game. It's so exciting. And, I think you can see the island building something pretty special there.
I can recall, a young Chris Pronger, even before Peterborough, playing in Stratford. I remember watching you play at Hartford, and that transitioning to the NHL has got to be so huge. And with Matthew Schaefer, it seems as if already the game has slowed down around him. He's really comfortable with it. He's really comfortable with the way the game is played in the NHL. When did that happen for you? Like, when did Chris Pronger say, okay, finally the game is settling here, so I feel comfortable?
There were moments in time. I think the biggest issue I had was inconsistency. You play a good game, you feel good about yourself, and then you throw in 2 or 3 bad ones. You play a good game, and just that roller coaster ride and lack of consistency and understanding of what it's going to take night in, night out to be a true pro, and experiencing the league and understanding players' tendencies and all that kind of stuff. It was really that my 5th year in the league was kind of really where I played consistently night in, night out. I knew how I needed to prepare, how I needed to show up at the rink, what I needed to do to get my mind right and prepared to go to battle every single day. Practice, games, in the gym. So from that perspective, but the league was a lot older back then too. There wasn't a lot of young guys around.
Yep.
And so, a little bit different, but that was my kind of coming out year where I really kind of found myself and really understood how I needed to play and what I needed to do to be successful in the National Hockey League and play to kind of my identity.
Hey, you know what? We both played or I coached the Ducks. You played for the Ducks, and they're starting to get better again. It looks like, okay, they've turned that corner a little bit. Yeah. But when you won the Cup in 2007, I think, like, what was the fan base like? Like, I know that when we were losing in the conference finals, one reporter would be out there and he'd have a hat on that said press, and that was it. And there was nobody around. Was it any better when you won the Cup? Did you guys have a parade and everything down there at all?
We did. I'll tell you a funny story. The year we won the Cup is the year Kobe Bryant asked for a trade when he was going through all of his stuff with the Lakers. So I show up at the rink, game 1 against Ottawa. Pre-game skate, I come out, and some guy goes, "So what do you think about Kobe?" I look at this guy, Jeff, I'm sure you will understand. It was not a calm, nice response. I don't give a crap about Kobe Bryant. I'm in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. He can pound sand. I don't care. They can trade him. They can keep him. Tell him to hit the road. I'm here to play game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals and worry about Ottawa.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone, I think, for the horde of media around and the LA media that was coming down. But we had, the fan base was excited. It was we did have a parade. It was awesome. It wasn't like some of the major markets where they've got a massive street and they do this huge parade and all the rest of it. We kind of did it all right in and around Honda Center.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I'll tell you what else was a tone set. I remember specifically, I was racing to get back home to watch game 1. And so I was listening to game 1 on the radio, and Billy Jaffe was between the benches, and it was a neutral zone face-off, and his mic was hot. And all I could hear, all anyone could hear, was Brad May lined up with Chris Neal, and all you could hear Mayday saying, "Anytime, big boy. Anytime, big boy. Anytime you want it, big boy," and just like relentless. And I'm like, they're here to bully the Ottawa Senators. Like this Anaheim team, kind of like that Islanders dynasty. Like, you guys could play any way you wanted. Tough game, sure, no problem. You want to play pond hockey? Sure, we can play that. You want to play a 2-down, lock it down game? We can do that. We can play a 6-5. We can play a tough game. Like, you guys set a tone. It seemed like you dictated what the tone was going to be, and you did that for the entire series, to the point where you got Daniel Alfredson firing pucks at Scott Niedermayer to end periods. Like, when you can get under Daniel Alfredson's skin, like, that's really painting a Picasso there, Chris.
You've done your job. Yeah, it was arguably the funnest team I got to play on. Just, from what you're talking about, being able to play anything that the other team wanted to play, physical fights, finesse, you name it, we could do it, and that's a lot of fun, knowing you can just kind of let the other team roll into, how do you want to do it tonight, fellas? And we'll match and then best you in that regard. So it was a lot of fun to play on that team, and obviously having 2 goalies like Jiggy and Briz in back in the nets was pretty cool too.
Okay, let me change the subject a little bit, because these are little stupid things that I think of. When you became part of the player safety thing, okay, were
Yeah.
you a little, and you're doing all the stuff? Were you a little bit more? What's the word I'm looking for? Uh, did you take the player's point of view a little bit, because you had been suspended a few times, and I don't know if you thought that they were all warranted, but so would you sit there and say, yeah, that's just hockey, or did you have to change the way you thought or the way you played to think of what was a suspension and what was not a suspension?
Yeah, you have to learn the rule book, and you have to learn the angles and the nuance. If you recall back then, that was the start of Rule 48 and headshots and all the rest of that.
Yep.
And when you institute new rules like that, there's unintended consequences. We started seeing more knee injuries. Players were trying to jump out of the way or taking different angles to make hits to try to avoid the head. And then players thought, well, I'm not going to get hit. So then they would kind of move out of the way and drag their leg, and then guy'd take out his knee. Or you started seeing a lot of shoulder injuries. Guys were hitting different angles. So there's a lot of things you had to take into account. The one thing about being on player safety was I was part of the diving committee too, and I was not. I was yes, that's a dive. Yes, that's a dive. Yes, that's a dive. There was a lot of pushback from some other people on that committee that he barely touched him, but he did hit him, and I'm like, but it's a dive. So
Yeah.
that was pretty fun to be a part of, and you get to see some of the hardcore old school guys that are a little soft and lenient in the old diving department. So it was fun to see.
You're one of the guys that I look at, Chris, and I say he could play in any era. Have you ever looked, because Bruce was saying oh man, he would have been great in the 70s. Oh man, I look at the 70s and I'm like, half the league should have been in prison in the 70s, Gabby. And Gabby's like, oh, Pronger would have loved the 70s. Is there an era that you look at and you go I'm happy I played where I played. I distinguished myself, one of the most decorated players ever, but I really wish I had a chance to play in the 70s or the 60s, because as we talked about before you came on, you could have played in any era, Chris. You probably know that.
Yeah. It's funny when we were coming out of the lockout in 2005, I was told that I was going to be a dinosaur. Believe it or not, he's never going to be able to play with these new rules. Oh my God, he's on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. And I would argue that I was actually better under the new rules, the way the rule book was going to be called, with the no holding and hooking and all the rest of that, than I was pre that era, just in the fact that I didn't have to get tangled up with all the big 250 pounders in front of the net and have them draping all over me and lugging them around the ice, knowing I was going to play 30 minutes. I was a little fresher in that second half of my career, I think. And I think my play kind of dictated that I could be a little fresher to play more physical when I needed to be, to get up in the attack, to just be more of a distributor of the puck and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So I do agree. I think when you look at players in how they play the game, that they got to be able to move at least a little bit. Not the fastest, but fast enough to get around, mobile enough to get to the little guys, and big enough to battle the big guys. And you kind of find that equilibrium where you find that sweet spot, and you are able to play in all eras. And I do think it would be fun to play in the 70s. I mean, my hands might be a little sore.
Yeah, you might have had to fight a little bit more. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there would probably be, if I played the same way, I would have to wait a little bit to get to that third fight before I got tossed out.
Yeah, but you know what? Back then, there was very rarely a suspension. You had to kill a guy. I remember when Milbury went in the stands and was hitting the guy with a shoe, they were saying, well, he might get suspended for this. And I'm going, okay, if you can go in the stands and hit a guy in the head with a shoe and you might get suspended, the slashing part of the game, nobody ever got, unless you're Ted Green and hitting Tim whatever is Mackey over the head. Wayne Mackey, you're not getting suspended. But just I think you would have been great. And I would have loved you on my team in any era, but that's here nor there. So you've done a lot of stuff since playing, and like, I mean, you've done the player safety. You were an advisor, I think, to Dale Talon now, and now you've got this thing, the Pronger Group. Do a little advertising for yourself. What is that all about?
We'll call it performance coaching / leadership building / culture. Just go and do some keynote speeches around, locker rooms and standards and just the things that I kind of learned over the course of my career that worked. And being in locker rooms for 20 plus years and being in organizations, good and bad, you learn an awful lot by paying attention. And, I think being able to talk to people that think we're much different when actually we are not. I struggled mightily the first 3 or 4 years of my career. People think, they see, I tell people, they see the success, they see the trophies. You're talking about the introduction. That was not going to be there the first 4 years of my career. And so, having gone through all that adversity and figuring out how to set standards and then sticking to them and being disciplined and being consistent, as we talked about, and having good habits and just being dedicated and being committed and sacrificing a lot. There's a lot of things that maybe early on I should have sacrificed, that I needed to sacrifice after that 4th year in my career to get to where I ultimately got to and what it's going to take. And I think people, yes, you need talent, but an awful lot of things can be overcome by hard work. And I honestly believe people quit way too early. I think they get deterred and they get disgruntled and they lack confidence and all these things, and just continuing to put your foot forward and dealing with the adversity, using it as a way to build character and resilience and a little bit of grit. That goes a long way. And I think people don't realize how close they really are and what they can do. And so it's just instilling a few things that I learned over the course of my career. And then obviously doing TV. And by the way, I might have a book coming out.
Just like
That's
your
a great
brother.
message,
by the way.
Yeah.
A couple of things. Your brother Sean's book is a must read. To me, it's one of the great books of the last 25 years in hockey. Look forward to yours. The other one, I think, like, very few players, I think, take as much out of the game or have taken as much out of the game mentally as you have. Like, you've really learned lessons about yourself from hockey. I think that's outstanding. I look forward to the book. Last one for you.
Thank you.
I love asking players this. I remember I asked Brad May this one. This is the second time we mentioned May here. Remember I asked Brad May this once, and he said, I always wanted to play for the Boston Bruins. I had a chance to. I was going to sign a contract, and they said, you're going to sign with the Boston Bruins, but it's going to mean that we're going to move off of Travis Green. He's like, Travis Green's my buddy. I can't take my buddy's spot. I can't do that. So he never ended up playing with the Boston Bruins, which is one of the teams he always wanted to play for. Chris Pronger, was there a team that you always wanted to play for? Or are there any other teams out there that you thought, you know what, I think I might get traded to Gabby's Capitals or some other team? Was there a team you wanted to play for, and with other teams you thought you might have been moved to over your career?
I don't know if there was a team. Once I got in the league, I wasn't looking at teams and aspiring to play for XYZ team and, seeing how the NBA is and how they all go to one team and all the rest of that. I wanted to play against the top guys. I wanted to beat the top guys. And a lot of times you don't. And thankfully I got to do it one time and got to the finals 2 others. And, it is such a arduous journey and so many twists and turns and forks in the road, but that's what makes it so great. And that's what, you appreciate it that much more when you're able to ultimately get to the top of the mountain and have some success. And I almost got traded one time to the Toronto Maple Leafs, believe it or not.
When was that? When was that?
That was when I got dealt to Anaheim. They had a deal, not done, but the Leafs, the deal was going to be me for 2 firsts, Caberlet, and they being the Oilers wanted Alex Steen, but Toronto was only going to give him Matt Stajan. And they said, well, we're not doing it unless you give us our guy. And so then they traded me to Anaheim, and then they traded Steen. They traded Steen like 3 months later. But the one team that I did get to play for and got to learn a lot about was the Flyers. I would have loved to have played there earlier in my career, just with Mr. Snyder and how committed he was, and just the fan base and how crazy, and my style kind of meshed perfectly with Philadelphia Flyers hockey.
Chris, everybody looked at that and went, "Oh, that's a fit." Like, come on. Like, that's
by the way, I wish you hadn't have got. By the way, I wish you hadn't got traded to Philadelphia. By the way, I was in Washington at that time, and it wasn't happy playing.
Well, I do recall one night you guys pounded us in Philadelphia. We put you on the power play about 6 or 7 times, and I think the score was 8-2 or 7-2. It was we got shellacked, but it was a good learning lesson for the boys.
Yeah, because I think you won in the end. So yeah. Okay, let's end that conversation right there. Okay.
Well, what a great way to fit. Sorry, Gabby, Pronger's entered the division. Sorry about your luck. Chris, it's been a lot of fun. Continued success on Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey, and best of luck with the impending rumors of a Chris Pronger book. Very much looking forward to this. Thanks, Chris. Be well.
More to come.
Yes.
Thank you,
Chris.
Oh, that was great. I want to thank Chris Pronger for stopping by the podcast this week. I don't know why defensemen don't win the Hart Trophy more. I guess the logic for voters is, well, they already have their own trophy in the Norris. But, I mean, he's the last defenseman to win it, and that was 25 years ago. And the last defenseman to win the Hart Trophy before him was Bobby Orr in 1987. But nonetheless, what do you take away from our conversation with Chris Pronger?
He seems like, to me, like he would have been a great teammate. I mean, I think he would have been a demanding teammate, but he would have been a guy that I wanted to go to war with, and that you can go out with him and he'd be normal. He didn't have his nose stuck in the air. Generally, when I'm talking to him there, I'm thinking, hey, you could tell this guy's played in Peterborough, because I love all those Peterborough people, but it's he's just a great teammate that I would have loved to have been with. That's what I took out of that. I mean, boy, what a nice guy. And when you play against him, you don't think of him that way. You think of him, oh, you big, tough, arrogant SOB. And once I talked to him, I didn't think that.
All right, Gabby, a quick little tour around the NHL. The calendar is flipped, and the Rookie of the Month for the month of October was Matthew Schaefer, and he's kicked off November with a bang. 2 goals against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Islanders win 3-2. He now has 5 goals, and he's become the youngest defenseman in NHL history to have a multi-goal game. That record previously held by Bobby Orr. Now, if you look at most goals by a rookie defenseman, Brian Leetch had 23. Barry Beck had 22, missed the Colorado Rockies. And Dion Phaneuf had 20. Right now, Matthew Schaefer is on pace for 34. Now, is he going to keep up that pace? Probably not. But still, the point I think is a good one. This guy is crushing it so far. What do you see in Matthew Schaefer of the Islanders?
Well, boy, the biggest thing with me has got to be his hockey IQ. Here's a guy that stepped in, was undaunted. By the fact that he was in the NHL. And we forget he only played 17 games in junior last year and was still the scouts know their stuff when they're sitting there going, hey, we know this guy is number one, even though he hasn't played in 4 months. And to put up the numbers he's doing, he's revitalized, I think, the whole Islander fan base. What he's doing is beyond spectacular in my mind, because I really thought he would be coming into the league and crashing and burning, because he's an 18-year-old kid playing against these men. But if you look at the speed that he plays and the hockey IQ, you look at the goals he's scoring, it's following up the play, reading the play, doing these things that, hey, he's not supposed to be doing this yet. He's too young, but he is. Boy, I think the Islanders got a good one there.
So safe to say he's the Islanders' #1 defenseman. He's been one of the best defensemen in the NHL so far this season. Let me frame this in a very particular way. Drew Doughty was 20 years old when he made Team Canada at the Olympics in Vancouver and quickly distinguished himself as one of the best defenders on that team. Do you think there's any chance that, or are we getting too far ahead of ourselves here? Do you think there's any chance that Matthew Schaefer makes the Olympic team?
Well, I think we are getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves, but if the trajectory stays the same, let's just say, and it's hard to believe that it could actually stay the same or get better, even though the more experience you get, the better it seems you get. But I mean, I would not hesitate to put him as the eighth defenseman, and just to see what the experience is like, because he's going to be on there every 4 years, or every time Team Canada has an international tournament, probably for the duration of his career, if his trajectory stays the same. So I would keep him. And listen, if he's got 20 goals or 18 goals by the time this break comes, he's probably earned it on merit alone, let alone his age and inexperience. So I mean, I would definitely, if I was Mr. Armstrong, I'd be going, hey, let's quit looking at your team for a while, because they're not worth looking at. Let's go look at the Islanders and see if we can bring this guy on Team Canada.
A sort of comparison of conference right now. When we look at the Eastern Conference, everybody is, and like nobody's pulling away from the pack. Everybody's win percentage is above 500, which is always a little bit bizarre to look at, but nonetheless, there it is. No one's really distinguished themselves in the Eastern Conference. It seems as if there's only like a 5-point swing here between top and bottom in the conference. Anything jump out at you, though, about the Eastern Conference? I mean, the Penguins' start has been noteworthy. New Jersey may be the best of the bunch early. Anything jump out at you about the Eastern Conference so far, Gabby?
I think the biggest thing that's jumped out to me is it's very average, and that's what you're getting. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it and going, oh, that's not two Titans playing each other. The hockey has been average. I mean, I think it's 5 points, 13 to 18 or something like that is between first and last. So 1 week can make a difference. The first week, the Sabres stink. Now they're playing really good. Columbus stinks the first week. Now they're playing really good. So, I mean, the Rangers didn't score a goal in the first 4 games, but at home, now they're above 500 and they're right in the mix. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing that stands out. There's no team that's standing out is probably the biggest thing that stands out. I mean, nobody's just sitting there and going, I'm winning 6-1 every night or 5-1 and making it look easy. Like, say, the Leafs did last year at this time in October. I mean, with all the home games and that, they made the games look easy. And I think which is why the Toronto fan base is losing it a little bit, thinking about how average they are right now.
Flashpoint moment, speaking of the Maple Leafs, I want to get back to the East versus the West here, but while you mentioned the Maple Leafs, how did you see the Tanev-Michkov situation? Tanev coming off an injury already, collides with Michkov Saturday night in the Toronto-Philadelphia game at the blue line. You never want to see a stretcher on the ice, but there it was on Saturday.
Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? It's concussions are a crazy thing, but if you remember when Crosby missed half a year, through a concussion, I think early in his career, it was like the Winter Classic, and he hit Dave Steckel, and then and then 2 days later he played a game where he got hit behind the net, and that's what triggered it. And I'm thinking he's coming off a concussion, because the Michkov thing, it didn't hit him hard, and it was an accident, totally. I mean, the Russian Michkov wouldn't hit anybody if he didn't have to. So I think it was a total accident, but it comes on the heels of having one just before. So that buildup, I mean, it's unfortunate, and I hope he's back tomorrow, but I just think this is going to be more of a longer term thing than anything else.
Was happy to see him give the thumbs up on the way out, and happy to see that he was discharged when he was. All right, back to the East and the West. Quickly, in the West, as we mentioned, like there's no sub 500 teams in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, Gabby, sub 500 teams: Nashville, Vancouver, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, and Calgary. Which one of these are you the most concerned for, based on expectations going into this season?
Well, based on expectations, I would go St. Louis. I mean, is struggling defensively, and that's Jim Montgomery's always been a really good defensive-minded coach, and plays with really great structure in that. But so when they're allowing a lot of goals, that's sort of a little bit, the alarms are going off. I think when you look at Calgary, nobody expected them to be great. Nobody expected them to be 3-9, but I think they are where they are. The other teams you mentioned, I think Vancouver's a 500 club at best. Nashville, coming off a really poor result from last year, thought would be doing a little better, but some of their better players aren't producing at the rate that they would like. So, I mean, I think they're all there. Those teams sort of are, to me, are where they should be. When you've got the teams like Colorado and Dallas, and the surprises in Vegas, and the surprises are the Seattle in the West are doing as well as they are. I mean, and even Chicago and San Jose, which normally at this time would have about one win in 14 games, those guys are being really competitive. So I mean, you can tell that there's been crossovers but the Western Division to me is going to be a bigger swing of haves and have-nots than the East. I think the East will be tight right to the end.
One of the great stories in the West has been the Anaheim Ducks. And here we are as we have this conversation. And right now the Anaheim Ducks are first in the Pacific with a 7-3-1 record. Leo Carlson has 16 points in 11 games. Cutter Gauthier has 12 points in 11. Beckett Seneca has 4 goals. Joel Quenneville is conducting all of it. What do you see right now when you look at one of your old teams, the Anaheim Ducks? We knew they'd be improved, but this is even exceeding expectations, Gabby.
Yeah, they are. I mean, their young guys are really come to fruition. And you know what? They got the same scouts they had when I was there, and those are the same scouts that got Hampus Lindholm and Cam Fowler and Sammy Vatanen and Shea Theodore. They know what they're doing, right? And so now that all of a sudden they've mixed it up. Pat Verbeek, I think, has done a really good job of mixing it up with veterans. And I mean, so it's not just hey, we're not and it's something I wouldn't be saying all the time. I don't want to be the youngest team in the NHL, but there's some teams that lose always say, hey, we're the youngest team in the NHL, and that's supposed to be good. I don't want to hear that. They've mixed it up with some, I mean, I think the Trubas, I think the Kreiders, I mean, the Killorns, these guys, Gudas, they're great veteran guys that were leaders on their teams. And you add these young players that are stars in the making. I think Anaheim's setting themselves up to, I don't know if they'll make it in the end of this year in the tough West, but I do think that they're going to be a presence all the way. And they've got Joel. And when Joel walks into the rink and for the first time, you're looking at automatic respect from these players. They're going, this is Joel Quenneville, the Cups, the legacy, I mean, as far as how many wins he's got, I mean, it had to have an effect. And I think the Quenneville effect is really real.
I don't know if you overlapped with him with the Maple Leafs, but you certainly played with him with the New Brunswick Hawks. What do you remember of Joel Quenneville as the player, either in the American Hockey League or early in the NHL before he got?
Yeah, I played with him in both spots. And, the one thing, we used to play cards all the time. Joel loved to play cards, loved to gamble. And I mean, that's, so we hung out a lot when we played, both on the plane in Toronto and on the buses in New Brunswick. But I mean, here was a steady defenseman that I think he came from Windsor. And when he played, played junior, was an offensive defenseman more in junior, but he was more of a stay-at-home guy when he was in the NHL. And I think the best thing, not one of the best things is he got brought up and he started as an assistant coach in St. John's. And I mean, with Mark Crawford, who really helped him along. I think Mark took him to Colorado, and he really learned the ropes from Mark. And then you add Joel, who has a great personality, by the way, and is a fun-loving guy. You add that personality to the knowledge, and all of a sudden you got a really good coach. And he's done a great job. I'm glad he's back. I think the NHL needed a guy like Joel.
Speaking of great coaches, someone who is currently not coaching, but rather managing the Nashville Predators, and we should mention too, like that was a nice win against the Calgary Flames on the weekend, the doubling up Calgary 4-2. One of the things that I wondered about with Nashville and their woes, because this was not supposed to be the way the season was going to go, especially not with the players that they picked up last summer, and last season was kind of a disaster for them. Do you think that there's any chance that Barry Trotz goes back behind the bench? What I'm getting at here is we've seen coaches act as general managers. It doesn't happen anymore. The two jobs are just too demanding. But you're in the era where you would have a coach GM coach. That doesn't happen anymore. Could you see, though, Barry Trotz going back behind the bench in Nashville, considering all the success that he's had? He's won a Stanley Cup. And everywhere he's gone, he's been successful. Am I out of my mind here thinking maybe Barry Trotz is maybe not the answer, but one of the answers for Nashville?
Well, it's funny because, a couple years ago, Bob Murray fired Randy Carlyle, and I think the owner said, "You're going to fire Randy Carlyle, you're going to go coach too." And so Bob Murray had to go behind the bench and coach, which I don't think it was something that he really wanted to do, but he learned a great perspective from it. I think Barry wouldn't want to go behind the bench, but if the ownership said, "Hey, listen, you hired Andrew Brunette, we're not going to waste. He's got a couple years left on his deal. We're not going to waste that money. If you want to get rid of him, you're going to have to go behind the bench yourself." I think that would be the only way that Barry would want to go behind the bench, and I think it's a losing proposition when you do that, because these are the players that you've gone out and gone. Now you've got to, if you can't make them win, if you can make them win, you're a hero. But if you all of a sudden lose, you're going to lose both the coaching job and the GM job all in the same swoop, I think. So it's something I don't think he wants to do. I mean, hopefully he's not made to do it. I like Brew a lot too, so I don't like any coach losing their job anyway. But I mean, it's something that I'm sure he has a hunger to coach, maybe not Nashville, but I'm sure, you can't take a coach out of the coaching and him not wanting to do it. I would love to coach again. I miss it so much, being behind the bench with a group of guys and battling and winning and fighting for the same common cause. So I think that stays within all of us, but I don't know if he'd want to coach the team after firing the coach in Nashville. I don't think that he'd want to do that.
Okay, quick transition to the Washington Capitals. Time's tough right now for the Caps. Losers of 4 in a row. Saturday they drop a shootout. Lost at the hands of the Buffalo Sabres 4-3. And one of the headlines coming out of this negative stretch has been the power play. 0 for 13. What do you do in this situation? Like, you're Spencer Carberry. What do you do when the power play just runs dry? Take us behind the bench.
Well, I mean, you try different things. I mean, I think the one thing that they do, they're trying movement now a little bit, but maybe guys need to be in different positions. Maybe you need to shake up the who's on the power play. I mean, that's something that you would definitely look at, because of it. First of all, if it's working, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. But if it's broke, you got to fix it, right? It's like, to me, I'm sitting there and I'm watching. You know what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Alex in the bumper position. And I'd like him to be there because I think he would attract. It was two things. He would attract a tremendous amount of people coming on him. Would open up the rest of the rest of the team. And secondly, if it is open up and you give it to him, there's a good chance it's going in the net. I mean, Dylan Strome was missing until the last game for a couple games, so I think that really hurts when they don't have that they don't have that Nicky Backstrom passer there anymore, and Dylan Strome sort of took over for that, and Pierre-Luc Dubois was injured, so another big bodied guy that could go in front of the net was there. But I really do think that, I mean, because I think they can, Chychrun is good on the point, but I would try Alex in the middle. I tried him there very early on in the career of my coaching career with them, and it worked it worked because everybody surrounds Alex. All the penalty killing meetings are about, okay, where's Ovechkin? You got to watch where Ovechkin is, and so they're all eyeing him. So if everybody eyes him in the bumper position, there's going to be, whether it's John Carlson or somebody else, open on that half wall spot. And I'd like to give it a try because it's not working right now, whatever they're trying.
Yeah, a quick follow-up before we get to Hey Gabby. Did Alex like it?
He bought into it because it was really early. Like it was my first game. I changed it my first game. And you know what? Here you're talking about Hey Gabby. This story, I've told it before, but my very first meeting, we were playing in Philadelphia, and I said, we're going to change up the power play tonight. And Alex is going to be in the bumper position. And what's going to happen? This is what's going to happen. Everybody's going to come after Alex. And so Nicky, who was the fourth line guy when I got there, wasn't playing much. I said, you're going to be the half wall guy, and you're going to get the puck, and everybody's going to go to Alex, and you're such a good passer. You're going to pass it through Alex to Mike Green, who's going to play in his spot. Mike Green's going to shoot it in the top corner, and we're going to score some goals, and that'll open it up. So wouldn't you know, and this is all luck because I don't have a crystal ball or nothing, but I tell the story because it worked. And so the first penalty was at about the 4-minute mark of the first period, and Nicky gets the puck. Alex goes to the bumper position. He bypasses him. Green puts it in the top shelf, and everybody on the bench turns around. And I said, see, I told you, I know what the hell I'm talking about. And I think that sold the team for me. I swear to God, it worked so well. Like I couldn't have written a better script about how to start a coaching career where the guys say, here's a minor league guy. What the hell does he know about our team? And then it works right off the bat, and I think it set the tone for something good.
Gabby, that is a perfect transition to Hey Gabby. A couple of questions that I want to highlight today. Again, if you have questions for Gabby, use the hashtag Hey Gabby. This comes to us from our friend Richard Chung, who says, Hey Gabby, hey Jeff, can you ask Bruce if he played ball hockey in the summers to stay in shape? Also, was Rick Vive one of his teammates in that summer league? That from Richard Chung.
Well, you know, that's a great question because in 76, I think the Metro Toronto Ball Hockey League started, and we put a team in there, and we were a bunch of 20-year-old guys that I grew up with school. There was about 8 of us, and we only had 8, and every team we would play would have about 18, 17-year-old kids, and usually Italian kids running around with their parents in the crowd, going nuts all the time. And we had 8 guys, and we were just acting like big bullies. And then when Rick Vive got traded to Toronto, he lived in Scarborough with me, and I said, Rick, come on, you play ball hockey with us. We had Mike Palmetier's brother playing with us. We had my brother playing with us. It was sort of like it was pretty cool. So Rick says, yeah, okay, I'll play. And like ball hockey gets you in great shape because you're running in a real rink for 60 minutes. It's much harder than skating. So after about 2 weeks, okay, we're playing this bunch of young kids, and now that Rick Vive, the captain of the Leafs, is on the team, the stands are full. Like, I mean, for a ball hockey game, the stands are full and they're all screaming at us because, we're winning but we're cocky and everything else. And then some guy takes a run at Rick, and then another guy takes a run at Rick, and then Rick jumps into their bench, and we have a brawl, a ball hockey, and Rick's beating up these 16, 17-year-old guys. And okay, so that ends. And after the game, we're sitting in the dressing room and I'm going, Rick, I kind of think your ball hockey career is over right now. I mean, you cannot continue to do this as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But he jumped right into the bench. I mean, we're sitting there, we're looking aghast. First of all, they got 18 guys. We got 8. We're gonna be just killed. But I mean, Rick went flying over the bench into it, and I just said, Rick, hey buddy, love you, but you can't continue to do this. But that was that was the end of that career for ball hockey.
That's a great story. Richard, great question. Gabby, great story. This comes to us from MD Stewart. Hey, Gabby, what is Bruce's all-time favorite wrestling event or match he attended? You can do attended or watched. We'll close on wrestling.
Yeah, attended. It was easy. It was in the front row. Kevin Owens got me tickets in the front row in Hershey. And after the match, he came and he hugged me. I knew I was on TV, and I'm going, yeah, people know I'm a wrestling fan, right? So, but then Kevin says, and they won. It was him and Sami Zayn. I don't even know who the opposition was, but they won. And he says, come on back. So I went back to the dressing room area, and it was, he says, Bruce, we're going to do something right now. So get ready. And they start ad-libbing, and I'm their manager just before they're going to Saudi Arabia. And I've got to sit there, and there was one take, and I'm sitting there going, well, Kevin, I don't think you were active. No, Sammy, you weren't active enough in the ring. I think that pissed him off because he's, what do you mean not active enough? And I said, I mean, you were sitting down, weren't doing too much. And Kevin, when you get knocked out of the ring, I mean, you got to get back up. You can't sit and lay down there like a dead ref all the time. So you got to get back in there. So we went on for about 2 minutes, and I had the greatest time there, and it was a lot of fun. But I mean, that was me being sort of interactive there. But I mean, I just loved like the 80s and the 90s. Bret Hart was my hero in wrestling. Yep. So anytime he was into a match, and his match was Stone Cold, when which sort of made Stone Cold the wrestler he was, because the double turn. Yeah. Bret ended up winning, but Stone Cold was full of blood and he never quit. I think that was my favorite match of all time. And even in the 60s, I used to get up every morning, and every Sunday morning there was Buffalo TV had wrestling on, and I was glued to the screen. Like I swear there was a guy by the, I can't find him anywhere, but I swear I'm not making it up. There was a guy by the name of Johnny Powers, and he had the power lock, which was the same as the figure 4. And I would sit there and go, oh man, he's my hero. And then but I couldn't tell anybody because nobody wanted to hear about wrestling in the 60s. I had to be all hockey, but I was a closet wrestling fan back then.
Secret's out, Gabby, and I think it was out a long time ago, that you're a big pro wrestling fan, and good thing you're doing the show with me, because so am I. My favorite was the first I ever saw Maple Leaf Gardens. It was a co-promotion between Tani, who was promoting in Canada, and Crockett, who was promoting Mid-Atlantic, and it was the first main event I ever saw, and it was the best main event I ever saw. It was Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. I remember my dad would take me to all the wrestling shows, and I remember leaving and getting on the subway at Young and College, Carleton Station, thinking, wow, if all wrestling is this good, it must be awesome. I learned later I probably saw the best main event in 50 years in North America, and they toured that match all over the place. Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, maybe the two best to ever do it.
Absolutely.
The official Storytime segment to wrap up every edition of the Hockey Lifers. Last week in the NHL, we saw the Islanders make a very difficult decision to scratch Matthew Barzal for their game against the Carolina Hurricanes. The scratch was because Matthew Barzal was late to the bus. Do you remember the first time, or maybe one of the more profound times, where you had to make the same decision? Someone was late for a meeting or the bus, or didn't show up, or broke an alarm clock, or dog ate my homework, whatever, and you had to sit a player down and scratch him for disciplinary reasons.
Actually, when you say it, I think of two stories. One, I think defined me as a coach, and two, scared the crap out of me. So I'll tell you the first. The first was in Fort Wayne. I was actually second year coach, and so I had played with this team in the International League 2 years previous, and now I was coaching them. And we played in Arizona, in Phoenix. And the one night, we're a bus league, so we don't get out much. And so I said, okay, guys, we're here after the game too, so you can go out then, but we're having a curfew. It's a big game for us. Let's be in by 11. And so it just so happened that I was either in the lobby or something, and then I saw a couple guys wandering in around 12:30. And maybe I was just getting in. I don't know. But I didn't put a curfew on myself. So the next day, I got to come up and I got to tell my two guys who were teammates of mine. I said, I was really, what do I do here? What do I do? How do I define this? And I have a meeting and I'm not doing anything. I'm hoping. And then I walk out of the meeting and I say, nope. If you're going to be a coach, you have to make the decisions that are tough. You got to do the things that aren't easy. And I went back in there and I pulled out Kevin MacDonald and Ian Boyce, the two guys I was talking to. And I said, you guys can't play tonight. You were out for curfew. You saw me and everything else. I've got to put a standard together. And so you can't play. And they whined and cried, and they're friends for, life type thing. But it's something when you're the coach, you do what you have to do. When you set those limits, you've got to follow them up here. And so, I hated doing it. And I was sick to my stomach because Kevin had played in Phoenix the year before. He had all his friends coming. But you have to do these things when you're doing it. And that's what Patrick did. The guy missed the bus and, you got to pay the piper. I also did it. And because when I was thinking about this yesterday, and I did it in Anaheim too. When you have the game day skate and the team service guy comes in and says, we're leaving at 12:25. Okay. Everybody be on the bus. So 12:25 came and there was no Teemu Selanne. And I said, let's go. And the players were laughing so hard because they knew the ramifications of Teemu had to take a cab or an Uber back to the hotel, and he was so mad at me. And which happened a couple of times, but for the rest of the year, after a game day skate on the road, he was always in the bus. But in the first seat, and he had his hand on the clock. And if anybody was ever, once it hit 25, he said, you better be going. And so we never had another guy late for the bus because Teemu was now in charge. And and there's no way I was going to say, no, let's wait for Getzlaf another minute. He would have thrown a punch at me. So I remember that very well. But it's something as a coach, when you have your rules, if you don't go by your rules, then all of a sudden, whether it's a first line guy or a fourth line guy, they're not going to listen.
Quick follow up on Kevin MacDonald here. This is the second Peterborough Pete's referenced player on the podcast. For those that don't know, he, first of all, great teammate. Everyone I've always ever talked to about him, including his old manager, Jeff Toohey, will talk about how great a guy he is and great guy he was. Great teammate, but he was so tough. That guy was legit tough, and he's part of the coffee club, the Cup of Coffee Club, which is he played one game in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators. It was a blowout loss, but nonetheless. Do you have a quick thought on Kevin MacDonald, one of the toughest to do it?
Hey, I loved him. I absolutely loved it. For a guy who was built wide, he wasn't overly tall, very average skater. But man, did he give you everything, heart, every night he gave it to you, and that's but I mean, and that's why we were really good friends. I mean, I respected him so much. He at least protected me. I don't know how much he liked me after I sat him out anymore, but I mean, he protected me when we played together. But here's a guy that made it. And whether it's one game or 1,000 games, it doesn't matter. He made it on his effort and his drive and his desire. And I love the players that do that. And I have all the respect in the world for them.
Okay, Gabby, last question for you. If I'm late to the podcast next week, what happens?
I'm on my own. Yeah. But if you're late, then I'm not going to be there because, as Sean doesn't even know or doesn't produce, I'm doing it from your house next week. I hope that can work out. So
my family is thrilled. Gabby is going to be at the house up here a little bit north of the city of Toronto. So very much looking forward to that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the games this week. We'll talk to you here on the Hockey Lifers in 7 days.